This is the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, Samsung's latest flagship phone, absolutely beautifully designed and with some impressive stuff happening under the hood, both in terms of hardware and software. And this is me, a longtime iPhone user who admittedly is a little stuck inside the Apple ecosystem, and for the longest time I was quite happy to be stuck in said ecosystem. I love all my Apple products and I didn't really feel the need to venture outside. But let's be honest, the last couple of iPhone upgrades have been pretty stale, especially considering that Apple's main selling point for this last iPhone, Apple Intelligence, has been pretty underwhelming, or if you're in Europe like I am, just downright unavailable. So I've been feeling the urge to look elsewhere to broaden my horizons. I've been using the Pixel 9 Pro Fold as a secondary device for a while now. Review is up on the channel if you're interested, and I've really enjoyed the experience. And so when Samsung reached out to me offering to let me use their new S25 Ultra for a couple of weeks, I of course said yes, please, and thank you. Fast forward a couple of weeks later, I've been using this thing and enjoying it very much, and I have some thoughts. So I guess you can consider this an iPhone user's review of the Samsung S25 Ultra. Let's ramble.
Hold up, things go wild when I pull up. They all on me like it wants.
Hey guys, what's up? So let me just get something out of the way really quick. This review is not sponsored by Samsung. They did of course send me the review unit to check it out, but I'm required to send it back. I don't get to keep this thing and no money has exchanged hands whatsoever. So please know that whatever I have to say about this phone is 100% my own opinion. The unit they sent me is the S25 Ultra in titanium black. There's not a lot in the box, just some documentation, a SIM ejector tool, and a USB-C to USB-C cable, and of course the phone itself. And I gotta say, I'm really digging this design. I love the super thin bezels. I know the boxy design is probably not going to be for everyone, but I think it looks great, and to my surprise, it feels pretty good in the hand. That's right, Rene Ritchie, I said it. It feels good in the hand. It actually feels a lot lighter than it looks too, probably a bit lighter even than the iPhone. I'm not sure if that's true, but it feels lighter. All the usual suspects are there: power button, volume rocker, speakers, mics, USB-C port, and of course a SIM card slot. And this being the Ultra model, it comes with the S Pen. Without Bluetooth, by the way, and I know some of you guys wanted to know about that. I asked you guys on social media to send me some questions ahead of this review, so you will be seeing those pop up throughout the video. Anyway, the lack of Bluetooth on the S Pen was a big one. I've received it more than once, and to answer your questions, yes, I'm a little bummed out about it. Why? Not because I'm some big stylus user, I'm not, but the one thing I did find incredibly useful about the S Pen was the ability to use it as a remote for the camera. With that gone, I honestly don't think I'll be using it much at all. There are a few cool things you can do with it, more like tricks and gimmicks, but we'll get back to that later on in the video. Setting it up was super easy. I do appreciate that we can transfer data and settings between iPhone and Samsung these days, but in hindsight, I think I would have preferred to just start fresh. While initially it said the transfer would take an hour and 18 minutes, it actually ended up being several hours, and a lot of important data still didn't really get transferred properly, so I personally don't think it was worth the wait, and a fresh install also gives me the opportunity to reevaluate which apps I'm actually using and which ones I might as well ditch. The S25 Ultra has both Face ID and a fingerprint scanner, which is nice. The fingerprint scanner is under the screen. Not everybody will like that, but I will say it works really well. It's really super responsive, so I think it's fine. I like it. One of you guys asked me whether the power button on the side could double as a fingerprint scanner, but unfortunately that's not the case. The button is just there to turn the device on and off, or you can long press it and summon Bixby, or Gemini in this case, but we'll talk about that later. What I did notice straight away is that One UI 7 feels really smooth and buttery. My buddy Daniel, fellow YouTuber and former Samsung employee I should say, asked me how I like it compared to the previous Samsung phones. I did review the S25 Ultra last year, but honestly, I don't really remember it well enough to say that this is faster or not. What I can say is that it feels every bit as fast, if not snappier, than the iPhone. And to me personally, that's more relevant because if I'm going to be using a non-iOS device, I really don't want it to feel like a downgrade when I'm navigating the OS, but that is definitely not the case here. This feels nice and quick, so yeah, kudos to Samsung for that. Ryan Williams wants to know about the brightness of the display. I mean, real world indoors at max brightness. I find mine very dim. While I do know that it's not at its brightest right out of the box, you actually need to go into the settings and adjust that. By the way, the search bar is now AI assisted, and searching for things is really easy and intuitive now. I would have had to dig deep into the settings menu before, but now you can just search for something very intuitively, Type brightness, for instance, and bam, you immediately see the suggestion for extra brightness. You'll see the slider is all the way up, but when you hit the extra brightness toggle, you'll see the brightness increase even further, and it's quite noticeable. I'm not sure if you tried that, Ryan, but that definitely helps. Another thing that's useful to know is that the screen resolution is not set to the highest settings by default either. So out of the box, it will be set to 1080p, so you will have to go into the settings menu and manually get it to QHD. What I also appreciate as an iPhone user is the new notification center. I've heard people complain that it's a ripoff from the iPhone's notification center, but honestly, who cares? These phone brands steal from each other all the time, and why not? If something is really good and people like it, why not copy it? I don't care who came up with it first, I just want it to work. And it does work really well. It feels familiar to me coming from an iPhone, there's plenty of customization options, so all good in my book. What I don't care for though is all the Samsung bloatware. For example, if I want to follow an email link, it automatically tries to open it with Samsung Internet, and it does not give me any other options, even though I already have Google Chrome installed on this phone. So first I have to go in and manually set Chrome as my default browser, and only then will it open my links in Chrome. I don't really like it when they force bloatware on you like that. Speaking of third-party apps, there are a few that I install immediately simply because I like them better than the stock apps and because they are cross-platform, so I can use them on all my devices, whether it's iOS or Android. Google Chrome being one of them, but I also replace whatever stock email app with Spark Email. I'm still looking for that perfect mobile email app, but for me, Spark Email is the closest thing to it. I love that it now has the integration with Notion, which is another app I will install immediately, so I can send my emails directly from Spark into Notion, which is a feature I've been wanting for such a long time. I used to use it on Evernote, which is now ancient, but it was never there on Notion and I really hated it, so I'm so glad it's here now. Notion is my external brain. It's where I manage everything from my daytime business to this YouTube channel, and it works the same both on iOS and Android, more or less anyway. Next, I will install my favorite messaging apps. I don't really use text messages. I don't even use iMessage on the iPhone. I spent most of my time between WhatsApp and Telegram. Again, perfect because both of them are cross-platform, and I like that you can attach Telegram to your primary phone number, so I can use multiple phones without having to create several accounts. Now guys, I love using these apps. They're cross-platform, super convenient, but unfortunately they do come with something really annoying, and that is spam. Especially on Telegram, things have gotten pretty wild for me lately, with these random numbers reaching out to me almost on a daily basis, trying to run some kind of scam. Now, the ones on Telegram are so obvious that it's ridiculous, so I either just delete the message and block the sender, or sometimes when I'm in the mood, I might have some fun with them first and then block them. But it's not always that obvious, and it certainly isn't always funny. We all get bombarded left and right by spam. I feel like I spent more time deleting spam emails sometimes than I do actually reading the legitimate ones. And now these people are even calling and texting us. Now, if you've ever wondered how these spammers got a hold of your information in the first place, well, they probably just bought it. Every time you register for a free app, you're paying with your data, and a lot of these platforms are selling that information to third parties. There's an entire market out there where information is bought and sold, and the level of information they have on us is scary. Names, phone numbers, email addresses, where you live, your purchasing behavior, and sometimes even the names of your relatives. It's all out there and it's being sold on these massive databases. Now, thankfully, we have a right to demand that our personal data is taken off of these lists. The problem is that there are tons of those lists out there, and none of us would even know where to begin. And that brings me to the sponsor of today's video, Incogni. This tool has been an absolute game changer for me because they essentially go out there and get you removed from these lists. All you have to do is sign up to Incogni and give them the permission to act on your behalf, and they do all the work for you. They find the lists that you're on and they start demanding the removal of your data. Even if these data peddlers push back at first, Incogni will keep pushing them until all of your data is taken off these lists. And the coolest part is that you can actually track the work they're doing on your behalf via the Incogni dashboard. You can see exactly how many requests have been sent, how many are still ongoing, and how many have been completed successfully. I cannot tell you the peace of mind it gives me knowing that these spammers can't just look up my address on some people's search list. I went for the annual plan not only because it's a lot cheaper, but also because it means they will keep protecting my privacy month after month. If you want to take back your privacy too, now is a great time because if you use my link in the description below the video, you will get an exclusive 60% off the annual Incogni plan. Now, there's a couple of things that really stood out to me, whether they're features that I feel have improved a lot since I last used a Samsung phone, or just things that I stumbled across that I thought were really neat. One of those things is the ability to create GIFs using the S Pen. And yes, it's GIFs, it's not GIFs. If you think it's GIFs, I will fight you. Anyway, it has this really cool feature where you can go to any YouTube video. Let's go to one of Mark's. Pull up AI Select and then just circle around the part of the video that you would like to turn into a GIF, start recording, stop the recording, and boom, you just made a GIF. Do we need this? No, but it's really fun, so why not? I also really like how Samsung implemented the Now bar. And yes, it's a ripoff of the iPhone's dynamic island. And no, I do not care. I love that feature on my iPhone. I think it's very useful. So I'm glad I can use something similar on this thing too. The AI image editor works really well too, in my opinion. It's not perfect, but it's pretty darn good. You see, I deliberately put this little CF Express card over these calluses on my hand to see if it would fill in the blanks once the object is removed. It doesn't quite do that. My hand looks pretty smooth after the object removal, so it's not smart enough to realize that there should have been a callus in between the other two. But apart from that, I think it looks nearly perfect. You wouldn't know something's been there unless you really know what to look for. What also stood out to me is how good Android Auto looks and feels these days. I remember it looking absolutely atrocious a few years ago, but it's come a long way, and I actually think the UI can compete with Apple CarPlay. And there's actually a massive advantage of using Android Auto over Apple CarPlay, and that is having Google as your assistant instead of Siri. I hate Siri with a passion, worst assistant ever, so having Google take care of my requests feels like a breath of fresh air. Speaking of assistants, this is definitely one of the major selling points for me on the S25 Ultra. Apple Intelligence has been very underwhelming so far, and here in Europe, like I said, it's not even available. So I'm still stuck using dumb old Siri, and we all know she's not the brightest bulb in the tanning bed. Now, Bixby isn't anything to write home about either, but now that it's integrated with Gemini, that changes everything. Gemini is definitely not perfect. I still prefer ChatGPT 4.0, but to have Gemini at your fingertips by just long pressing the power button is a million times better than Siri. It's a great way to get some quick answers, and conversations are feeling more and more natural, even if you're trying to get a rise out of it. Hey, what's up?
Hey there, not much, just hanging out here in the digital world. What's going on with you?
So ChatGPT can remember stuff that I teach it. Can you also remember things so you can get to know me better?
Yes, I can remember things we talk about so I can get to know you better over time.
Can you remember my name?
Okay, what is your name?
Can you call me Daddy?
I'm sorry, but I'm not comfortable with that.
What if my name is Daddy?
Okay, Daddy, what would you like to talk about?
Now we're cooking.
I'm not comfortable with this conversation, Daddy.
The cameras have not changed much from the previous model, except the improved 50 megapixel ultra-wide camera. What I'm more interested in though is comparing it to the cameras on my iPhone 16 Pro Max. So let's take a bit of a photo walk here in town. I'll put the photos side by side, and then you guys tell me which one you think is which in the comments before I reveal it after the last photo, of course. Don't cheat. The last thing I will say about this camera is that I'm really happy to see the log option built in. I've been using my iPhone a lot as an extra little emergency camera, you know, whenever I'm not carrying a proper video camera and I want to get a quick shot. Having that log option available has been really useful because it makes it a lot easier to match my footage to my other cameras. Of course, it's not the same, but it's a lot closer than using some built-in profile. So to have that available on the Samsung 2 is a big plus for me. So guys, what can I say? I like this phone a lot. I mean, coming from an iPhone, I thought it would be a huge adjustment, but honestly, there isn't a whole lot I feel I'm missing. Sure, there are things like AirDrop that I do really miss. I use it every single day, so if it's not there, you're gonna miss it. And yes, I know there are third-party workarounds that resemble AirDrop, and none of them offer the same seamless experience, trust me. I'm not a big FaceTime or iMessage user, so I'm not really missing those things. I guess that's a European thing, it's just not that popular over here. So yeah, I think I could easily make this my daily driver and not really have too many issues. And that says a lot in terms of how far Android has come, and it also says a lot about the current smartphone landscape. These top brands are competing so closely that it's really hard to say which one is better, and it all comes down to user experience and personal preference. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it one of these. It really helps the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.